Hickory dickory dock, the mouse ran up the clock. Coach Swinney's got that drip, and now he's on TikTok.
Hickory dickory dock, the mouse ran up the clock. Coach Swinney slipped a bit, but how does he get back to the top? The 12-team college football playoff era is here, and nobody needs this reset more than Dabo Swinney and Clemson. Only a few years ago, we looked at the Clemson Tigers as a dynasty. From 2015 to 2020, they made 6 straight national championship games. They won 2 natties and only lost once in the regular season 3 times. During that time period, they were on par with, if not just below, the Alabama standard. There's not a lot of people out there saying that. But in 2023, Clemson started 4-4 and failed to win 10 games for the first time in 12 years. What happened, and where did the Tigers go from here? The take you hear all the time is that Dabo's been slow to accept the transfer portal as a way to build your roster, and as a result, that's why the Clemson dynasty is deteriorating. Well, that's true, but it's not that simple. Dabo has not been very active in the portal. In 2022, he got 1 player. In 2023, he got 1 player. And so far in 2024, he has 0 players out of the portal. For reference, Colorado has 23 dudes out of the portal so far in 2024. Dabo's reluctance to use the transfer portal comes from the belief that recruiting and developing talent is the only way to build a winning culture within a program. Big picture, I mean, he's right, but winning programs have also figured out that you can supplement that winning culture by bringing in transfers as well. Of the top 35 guys on the 2 teams that played for the national championship last season, Michigan had 27 dudes that were recruited out of high school and 8 transfers that came in. Washington also had 27 guys that were recruited out of high school to the roster and 8 transfers come in. Dabo's winning culture argument also falls flat when conference rival Florida State comes into Death Valley with 3 transfer portal receivers that put up 230 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a 31-20 win over Clemson. But just because Dabo's hesitant to use the portal doesn't mean that that's the whole story. Clemson actually wasn't able to close with at least 5 players out of the portal since 2021. Which brings us to another issue at Clemson, their NIL philosophy. Clemson's NIL dollars seem to be there from all accounts. What's holding them back is how they're choosing to deploy those NIL dollars. They use NIL to pay players on their current roster, and it's kept far away from any recruiting pitch. Again, the concern is how will it impact culture? In an era where other teams are hiring general managers and developing strategies around how much to spend at which positions, this is a weight that Dabo is tying around the program's ankle. All this, and I still like the 2024 Clemson Tigers. Despite what the trolls tell you, Garrett Riley can coach. He's got Cade Klubnik back for the 2nd year as his full-time starter, and he's got leading rusher back Phil Maffa as well. Another playmaker needs to emerge from the guys that they recruited. Dabo's development philosophy has to play out in the receiver room. Between Troy Stellato, Adam Randall, and Antonio Williams, somebody needs to emerge as a clear-cut number 1. But what I don't like about the 2024 Clemson Tigers is their schedule. They open with the likely preseason number 1 team Georgia in Atlanta. Their first conference game is against NC State, who beat them in 2023. Then in the 6th week of the season, they play Florida State in Tallahassee. Clemson needs one of those games to stay in playoff contention. The rest of the way, their toughest matchup is Louisville, but the Cards have to come to Death Valley. So we have this team with systemic issues that's hurting their ability to use a key roster building tool with a solid current roster and a tough schedule. Even with that, I have a hard time betting against Dabo Swinney and Garrett Riley figuring it out. Ultimately, Dabo comes from the Saban tree, and with every Saban guy, we know the deal. It's about process, not results. Saban was successful because he was unemotional and downright stoic about what it took to win. He tried to avoid wasting time on how things were supposed to be. He saw spread offenses kill his offensive philosophy, so he adapted. And then he saw adaptability as the key factor a defense can have, and so he changed the way he recruited. Sure, he might let the media know he didn't like it, but Saban still made the necessary changes based on what works. Eventually, if he's honest with himself, Dabo will see how his philosophy around NIL and the transfer portal is hurting his team, and he'll adjust. If he doesn't, we might see a football dynasty deteriorate the same way Ernest Hemingway described going bankrupt. Gradually, and then all at once.